Tonight's video will be a little short, I think. I'm in a weird place mentally. I had a good day though, so can't complain too much. Um, I think the topic I'm going to talk about right now, we live in the sci-fi world, right? I mean, we we think of ourselves as, you know, rough and tumble heroes sometimes, the American spirit is that of the cowboy or something. Uh, I think that it's easy to forget sometimes how much of a science fiction world we live in. Now, I've got a phone, HTC One. It's a nice phone. It's very pretty. It's aluminum. It's very thin, but not too thin. It's got a nice weight to it. The camera actually could be better, but it's not terrible. I like it so much actually I don't put a case on it because I think the phone itself is too pretty to put a case on it. But this right here has more power in it than all of the computers used to put the men on the moon. That's a lot of power. This can do more than a lot of the sort of carry-around computers that they had on Star Trek could do. I can, for hours a day, browse the web. And the web, I mean, alright, I'm making videos right now that go out on an international network of interconnected computers that will be shared with people from around the world. And they can download them, they can watch the video anytime they want, from anywhere they want, on their phone, or on their PC at home, or on their PS3 that's hooked up with the YouTube account set up, or, a dozen other ways. We live in a science fiction world, and it's easy to forget sometimes. I mean, something will pop up and you go, oh, yeah, we live in the future now. The robot soldiers that they've got in development, this private company that's started up with the premise of we're going to make rockets and send things to space. When I was growing up, that was science fiction. I mean, sure, Boeing helped the government do it, but only the government, only NASA was going to send rockets to space for the U.S. Now it looks like we may actually run out of, the opportunity because of our unfortunate relationship with Russia to have our people shuttled back and forth unless we use that private company. It's kind of weird. We take for granted all of these wonderful things that are part of our lives now. I can send messages to my friends all day long. For free, for the most part. I mean, I pay for the internet connection, but, I'm not like paying per message or anything. I could have a video conversation with friends in other parts of the country. I could record those conversations. I can play games with people that are all over the world. We live in the future. I have to wonder sometimes, what else? What's next? I mean, we see occasional predictions, and sometimes they seem pretty damn fanciful or apocalyptic, I guess. Will we kill death? Will we conquer death? Will we, reach the point where we can't die anymore? Will we understand the brain so much that we can get rid of mental illness? Will we understand the brain so much that we can decide what sexuality we want to be? Right now, it's not really a choice, and people who tell you that it is a choice are, schmucks. You either have an inclination one way or another, or some mix therein. But we understand so much about how the brain works already. We're learning a bunch all the time. We will eventually figure out what causes people to have attraction. Well, if we figure out how it's done, we can quite conceivably figure out how to change it. If you're gay, you don't want to be gay, all right, here, some shots and some treatments and stuff, and suddenly you're not gay. Or, you're straight, but we got overpopulation, so that's kind of inconvenient. So maybe we'll make it pretty easy for you to not be straight anymore. That's a really controversial road to walk. Let me say that up front. I don't think we should treat homosexuality or bisexuality or transgender as if it's some sort of disease. But once we open up the door of understanding of how these things operate, we are also opening up the possibility of things like that happening. The future is scary as well. And we used to be scared of the future when I was growing up. This was supposed to be our cyberpunk future, and we're in the cyberpunk future. Those mercenaries that we were supposed to be, having running around in the streets of the U.S., well, sometimes they are running around in the streets of the U.S. If you don't know that, you haven't been paying attention to the security industry. But we have cyber wars. We have wars in the digital frontier. We have charged members of the Chinese army with hacking attacks on private industry in the U.S. We live in the future. And I keep wondering, what's next? When do we live on Mars? When do we leave Earth? When do we stop being who we are? I don't know. I know that my grandmother, who's in her late 90s, keeps talking about how she's lived too long. And I can't imagine that kind of thinking. I can't imagine getting to a point where I stop feeling wonder at it all. Where I find myself not wanting to learn about the next new thing. I don't understand that. Maybe there will come a point where I will understand that. I live in the future. I live in the future that I sort of read about. And yet it's completely different from the ones I read about. And that's kind of weird too. We're really bad at predicting our own futures as far as societies and how progress will roll. We were supposed to have cyberjacks by now. I don't see anybody drilling a hole in my head to put a data port. Not saying I wouldn't go that route eventually, but we're not there. We used to think that we would have robots by now. We do, but not the kind we expected. We thought we'd have flying cars. That is sort of possible to do. There are companies making them. But, yeah, they're a bad idea. I've seen people driving badly on, ground. Let's add an extra dimension to their ability to move. What could possibly go wrong with that? We have self-driving cars. They exist. I'm I'm constantly fascinated by this. Self-driving cars? Think about that. They're robots driving your car. That's awesome. I kind of want those to be almost mandatory. How many drunk drivers kill people every year? We live in the future. We also have future problems. Privacy is gone. It may never come back. We we constantly are monitored. Constantly are watched. We have a generation that's growing up with this notion that that isn't a problem. We are bombarded with so much information and so much product placement that we don't know what's true anymore and what's a sales pitch. We live in the future, and I don't know what the end is. I don't know how it plays out, but I'm kind of enjoying the ride. The future shouldn't be something to be afraid of, but we are. We're afraid of the fact that we don't know. We're afraid that we know ourselves well enough to know that we'll screw it up. I am a cynic, after all, which means I spend most of my life wishing I was wrong. Anyways, that's my ramble. We are living in the future now, and as such, you get to listen to my ramble. But I'm going to go to bed now, and sleep and dream of different futures, and maybe tomorrow, in the future, I will have new things to say. Night.